Welcome to America's Commercial Real Estate Show, your source for intel, forecasts, and strategies. Hello, I'm Michael Bull. Well, today our show is brought to you by Bull Realty Asset and Occupancy Solutions, headquartered in Atlanta and helping clients throughout the Southeast. Visit bullrealty.com. And today we have an incredible show for you. We're going to talk about social media for business. And I think it's kind of interesting in commercial real estate. A lot of us think that social media maybe is not that important. Well, it is important. It's also important for our tenants, whether they're retail, office, certainly industrial, with e-commerce taking over that industry. So we're going to have some experts today. We're going to have Michael Beckerman and Sarah Malcolm, and they're with a news funnel, and they've done a great job of using social media. Sarah has some history with ICSC, did a great job there. We're going to get their look and how they're using social media and they're seeing clients use it. And we also have Les Adkins with us here. He's in Studio One. He's CEO of Orange Wave Group. Their website is orangewavegroup.com. In Studio One, Les, thanks for joining us.
Hey, not a problem. How are you?
Great, great. Well, Les, if you will, to start us out with, you know, as I mentioned in the opening, I think some of us, especially in the commercial real estate business world, think social media, who needs it, you know? So what is how big is it today?
Well, it's pretty big. I mean, it's like Facebook has 18% market share of all of social media, which if you think about that from a perspective of how much people actually spend time on the different social medias, with YouTube, they spend 40 minutes. And what that means is when they actually are logging on to like a YouTube or thing, they spend 40 minutes in one time. Wow. Facebook, 35 minutes. Snapchat, 25 minutes. We'll come back to Snapchat. Instagram, 15 minutes. And Twitter, interestingly, because Twitter's been in all the news lately, about 1 minute, because you can look at Twitter really fast, right? Yeah. So the interesting thing, the #1 business platform, what do you think the #1 business platform is? Right now?
I think most people would think it's LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, but it's Snapchat. Actually, LinkedIn is the lowest on the social media, which actually is interesting because you said like your audience thinks that they don't need social media. That's not
just a few of us.
Yeah. But the thing about it, the interesting thing is that when we talk about business Snapchat, people go, Snapchat? Yeah. Well, that's where people are, and that's where the consumers are. And that's where the 18 to 34 age group that has that expendable income, that's where they're spending their time. So if you're not where they are, they're not seeing you. And there's more aspect of, you have to think about it from a broader perspective. Yes, the goal is to rent your space or sell your space or find a space to help other people. But at the end of the day, these companies that you're working with, they need employees. Yeah. Right? Right. So if they need employees and they don't have a good digital presence, then those employees aren't going to look at them and are not going to want to work for their organizations, which meaning they'll die, which there's companies dying every month here in the United States.
Yeah, so even if you're a lawyer or accountant or you're a developer, we all need to recruit and retain, right? So
exactly,
having a presence on social media can, the people, they'll at least know who we are, right?
Right.
And maybe want to work for us.
Right. I mean, I actually started working with social media in 2005. Mm-hmm. And so
you're a dinosaur.
I know. And now it's 2017. Yeah. And social media literally has changed about 5 times in that time span on how people use it, how people consume it. And one of the big things to understand is it's not going to stop changing. One of the interesting things that I'm seeing, because I travel quite a bit, right? So one of the interesting things I'm seeing both around the United States and in the world as well is that the economy is getting better, the unemployment is down, and so things are kind of getting back to the way, quote unquote, they were. The danger is that people go back to the traditional way of doing things, because they will lose in the end if they think, oh, it's all good now, so I can go back to doing it the way I used to do it, and just ignore this whole digital media, social media, that's just for kids. Yeah. Well, those kids now are 40 and under. Yeah. And they're the ones who are doing business and buying buildings, renting office space, doing all the things that your audience is needing them to understand that they can help them with.
Okay, so let's say I understand I need a social media campaign. I need a plan. How should I start off? Do I need to think about, first of all, who do I really want to do business with?
Yeah, think about who your audience is. I've said that from day one. You know, you really need to understand who your audience is. And the worst thing you can say is, well, my audience is everybody. No, that's not a true statement, right?
Yeah.
So you really need to spend some time defining your audience. And then the other thing that happens is people go, okay, social media. So someone comes in and talks about Snapchat. They heard your show. We said Snapchat's the #1 business. So they turn around their office staff and say, all right, we got to go on Snapchat, right? You're missing the point. Yes, Snapchat is the #1 in business right now, but in order for you to maintain a strong reputation, a strong presence, you need to have what's called, and you and I have discussed it a couple of times, digital presence. Which what that means is you have to be involved in where your audience is. And you and I just had the conversation that sometimes people will find you on one of the social media platforms and never ever go to your site.
Yeah.
I mean, the old adage is we need the digital presence to pull people to our website. That's not the world we live in anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of the old days where you had a website, you're trying to pull them there. I guess you're really now trying to, if you have content, you're trying to reach the folks you want to do business with, you better reach it where they are.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some research that needs to go into finding out where they are. And the first one is, who's your audience? You know, you and I talked about it. The biggest growth of Facebook is still that older generation, 55, 65 and above, right? And so if that's your audience, you need to be spending your ad dollars on Facebook ads.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people are surprised about where your audience is. You know, Les and I, we spoke together on a panel, and it was kind of an older group of commercial real estate people, and then for the 24 hours after that, Facebook lit up. Our Facebook lit up, and I thought, wow, these old people are all on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out really, all right, so if you define your audience and you know who your audience is, then I guess you got to think about, well, what do they want to understand? What do they want to know about? What is interesting to them?
Right. And so the thing is, the danger of businesses that don't know this whole digital thing is they want to advertise like they used to.
Yeah.
We have X number of space for X number of dollars in this X number of neighborhood, right? But what your people want to know is, what's the community like? What type of environment are they trying to build? One of the big things right now is sustainability, right? So is this particular area working more toward a sustainable ecosystem from a perspective of your buildings and how they're looking at the town? I just talked to a village, his title was a village manager in Ohio just yesterday. And he was talking about how his whole thing has changed, where people now want to pick up a lawnmower and go mow a plot of land. They feel good about it, right? And so you're looking at me and you're watching the show and you're going, what are they talking about? Well, it's no longer about what you provide. It's more about how what you provide helps the community and understanding the community and the neighborhood and how that's going to benefit them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, if you look at, let's say that you're leasing office space to companies in Minneapolis, then you want to think about, well, who is your audience? Is that CEOs and CFOs in Minneapolis? And they might only do a real estate event every 5 years or so.
Right.
So if you're just talking about the commercial real estate world all the time, they're going to tune you out.
Yeah.
You got to find out, well, what's interesting to a CFO in Minneapolis, right? Maybe it's HR, maybe it's sustainability, maybe it's wellness, maybe it's...
Right. Well, I mean, think about right now, there's a big move. I mean, think about just since I've known you, all the shared spaces, you know, that have come up and popped up where somebody owns that building, they own that space, and then they lease it out to individuals for office space, workspace, all those type of things, right?
Yeah.
That has grown tremendously. And I just read an article, excuse me, I just read an article on the plane that talked about how, I don't know if it's the same company, Rome, but you're familiar with Rome. They're providing neighborhoods. So no longer are they providing just single where people work, but they're providing these neighborhoods where people work, the office spaces, live, and have a internal group of friends. So it's going back to that tribe, that village, right? And so as your customers and as your people that are your audience that's listening to this, they need to get, for lack of a better terminology, get out of their head on where the world used to be and look at where it's going.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a really moving target with social media. And we're going to take a short break. When we get back, Les, I want to ask you about kind of how do you do that today versus a few years ago, and what are some of the top mistakes that you want to avoid? So stay with us. This is America's Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. We'll be right back.